Hi, and welcome to the channel. I've had a lot of questions on my video that deals with woven fencing for sheep and goats. And I've had a lot of questions about why I chose a portable charger and why I don't have the conventional. Stick around, I'm going to tell you why we picked what we did and why we didn't pick what we didn't pick. If you have any type of fencing that you're going to be doing in the future, you're going to want to watch this video. Okay, so first off, let's talk about why you pick what you would. You've got your conventional wire that's hardwired to a box, and that box is set out and it runs miles and miles, and you can have a little breaker switch that you can flip it on and off. It has an on switch on the box, and that's going to go all over your property and can do anything that you want it to possibly do. You have that route. Then you can also have the charger I have, the S100 Gallagher. Puts off 1 joule, and that's what I needed. So I think the biggest thing, if you're looking at doing any type of electrical fencing, right off the bat, you've got to kind of say, okay, am I doing sheep and goat? You know, am I wanting something even for your chickens, like Premier One puts out a really nice charger for net fencing? You know, or are you looking to have a 2,000-pound cow that has to have a little bit more torque behind it if it gets popped with the fence? For me, I wanted it for a couple of things. The Gallagher portable, even though I have permanent pastures with my woven fence, and there's a video up here that you can look at to see why I picked that and how I do that. I wanted the woven fence to be a permanent parameter, but I wanted to be able to come in later on down the road, because I really didn't do anything with electrical until about 4 years ago. I wanted to be able to come in and be able to rotationally graze my pastures, but not do a strong mob. I've done mob grazing. I did it this past year. That's a whole nother video. I'll be getting away from that and be focusing more on just a more rotational grazing piece. But I have 4 pastures. And so I didn't want to run miles and miles and miles of fence and connect all of that and have it all set up and dig. I'm more of a person that does things in stages. So what I wanted to do was focus on one pasture, seed it, plant it, get it where I want it, run some wire, use my portable electric fence charger from Gallagher to be able to hit that and be able to do some test runs. You all know, you've heard in my videos, I talk about having an experimental field, which is where I do a lot of field trials, and I do seeds, and I look at my phosphorus, and all. Well, I did the same thing with the fencing. So you really need to look at what you want. That's number one. Is it for sheep and goats? Is it for chicken? Is it cows, llamas, whatever? That's the number one thing you've got to focus on. Once you know which one you want, then you can move a little bit further. So moving a little bit further, what does that mean? If you have cows, you know, you don't have to have woven wire. Sheep and goats, you don't have to. If you want to keep your sheep and goats, you should. The main focus on what I wanted, as I said, was to be able to break those pastures up. So I did not want to run, number one, a ton of wires everywhere that I would not even be using. One of my pastures, one of my 12-acre pastures, a lot of it is still woods. And so I can't get the tractor in to constantly keep the line clean all the time. And I have not done any electrical wiring in that at all. My other 3 pastures, I'm slowly working towards that. So right now I have 2 pastures that I have the wiring set up. And that is set up so that I can take that charger and move it. And when I put up my my braided wire on my reels, I can move it for that. One of the things that I also used is a 14 gauge wire. Instead, I don't really think anything smaller than that is the way to go. But I have found out that a 1 joule that'll go 60 acres in clean fence is more than enough for my sheep and my goats, when I had my goats, to keep them contained. So you've got to kind of decide. I know joule is a big piece, but if you want to go any more than a 1 joule with a sheep or a goat, I think it's overkill. My opinion, I'm not saying I'm right, but for me, I have not had any problems with that at all. Now, one of the things that I really like about the Gallagher is the different settings. So you can see I've got mine on livestock, and you can also have it right here to where it will only put out a certain amount of voltage at certain times, and that is for the livestock and the wildlife. So I leave it on this all the time. I'm not really worried about that. If a deer jumps the fence, it's fine, but it's very simple. Now, here is the way I have mine set up. You can see right here, I have my grounding rod. Now, that's a 16-foot rod. It's more than enough in the ground, I can assure you. I have a piece of survey tape that you can see I probably need to replace. That is nothing more than just to remind me when I'm up here on the tractor and in my own zone that the grounding rod is there. More of when it's not hooked up, because obviously I would see the charger, but these are permanent, and this is why I do it. I can walk over, I can grab this, and I'm gone, okay? That quick. Here it is. See this? I'm gone. So I can take that, I can put that on, and now on a new one, and there it is right back on another one, and it's going. It's 2 wires. You basically have your hot and your ground. I've got that set up over here to a wire within this, as you can see. And I've got it stretched out along this and here. Now, here's the kicker. I have a pasture here, and I have this pasture that you all have seen in the other videos, okay? My wiring runs from this corner all the way down to the bottom. But as you can see with this charger, it's on this side. So if I want to put anything in this side of the pasture, I can just run it through that little piece of woven wire, hook it to that wire, and it works. Now, why am I telling you that? Because it saves a lot of money when you're running fence if you can do a dual fence side. So I have had some friends that have a wire running that side and on this one because they want to keep the stuff off. I don't. Now, here is what I was talking about that I do. I've got my main area. You can see, hey ladies, so you can see the sheep over there. And then I've got a 4-strand here that goes there and a 4-strand here. And this is their common area. And this is where they stay a lot of the time. But all I've done is just run these wires and hooked them to this bar, and then she's hooked in right there. So you can see this is electrified. Okay, now if I come down here to this side, I've got the same thing here. And so I like the fact that I can do this, okay, and it's hooked up to the wire, but then I can turn right around and move that portable charger to another pasture and not have electricity going for miles and miles. One of the things that you've got to really think about when you're doing this, and again, this is not for everybody, this is what I do, is I've probably made 1,000 to 5,000 changes on my farm in the last 20 years. And what I mean by that is there are so many people that will come in and do a massive amount of electric fence. And they'll put the poles in, and they'll do this, and they'll do this, and they'll run all this wire, miles and miles of high tensile wire, and have everything set up. And then 5 years down the road, something changes. If you're starting out with a farm and you are starting your homestead, or let's say you've inherited your dad's property. I don't know, that happens a lot in the world of farming, and you want to make some changes. Just don't go out and think that you have to buy this massive super duper, charger and then have it run all of the electricity out to it and set up. My S100 Gallagher was roughly about $400 total. Okay. I've had it 3 years. I have had absolutely zero problem with it. An example of what I'm talking about is the charger is not as expensive to set up on your conventional 110. But before you think you want to do that, go price what the cost is for the wire to get it where it is. I don't have pastures near the house. I don't want the smell of manure close to my house. So I have my sheep and my barn probably 250, 300 yards from my house. To run electricity out there, and I had someone come out and look, was going to run me about $2,000. And that's not including the trencher I'd have to rent, the time to do it, and all of that. That is just the electrical wire and just to have an electrician come out and do it. Another thing is people say, yes, they can do it themselves. I'm sure they can. I'm not going to do all of that just because, number one, I don't have a time. I've got a full-time job. And number two, I would want it done right. Would mine pass? Probably, but I would want it done right. So you've got to factor in cost. How much does all of that cost to have it done? Yes, the box is cheaper than the solar charger, but the mobility is not going to be allowed. When you put that box into a pole, and that's where you put it, you're going to have to run wire from that line. And if it's all the way across the pasture, 10, 15 acres, you're going to have to do that. And you cannot do that until you run all of your wiring combined, where with a mobile one, you can go in and set it up on a small range. Instead of running wire all that way, you can go and just set up a small pasture, get started from there. More and more failures happen from people getting overzealous and just jumping in and wanting to build a massive, massive pasture. Just pick something small, perfect it, and move from there. It is much easier for you to perfect a 2-acre pasture with a solar charger that you can move and you can do certain things with than it is to turn around and have to do a 40-acre pasture or 10 or 12-acre pasture, and you're trying to grow grass and all of that. That is just something to keep into consideration as well when you're doing this. So what's the answer for what you need to do when you're doing fencing? I would say at the end of the day, if you are starting off, this is for the people that don't have the fencing all set up and they're trying to get things going. And this is for the person that is starting out and is saying, we've just bought a farm, we've got limited fencing, or the fencing is out of date, we need to update, what should we do? I would go with a high-level brand like a Gallagher. This is not a paid promotion. I don't get anything from Gallagher. It's just what I have and the research that I did. Premier One puts out some really good stuff. Look at something small and say, hey, look, I'm new into this. I'm new into farming. What do I need to do to get me set up to where I'm going to have success and not get so frustrated and not get burned out and think that I can't do it? Okay. Look at an S1 charger. That is the one that I have from Gallagher. That's a 1 joule. It will keep everything off, but you do have the ability to be mobile. Another great thing about it is when you're doing your conventional 110 wiring, everything has to be connected. Okay, so you can actually take your animals and have them in a 1-acre plot way over here and then not have it connected, and then be able to move the sheep or the goats to an area and be able to completely have them to where it's not got a wire connected to it and everything is mobile. That's the biggest thing. But a lot of people will also say that, that the solar chargers should just be for mobile fences. And I don't agree with that. I don't have mobile fences. Now let me back up. I do my rotational grazing and I will split that, and you may call that mobile. But what I have is, plain straight woven wire with a wire 14 gauge at the bottom. And again, look back at my video on fencing. You can see it right here. Okay, there's my wire, and that is 18 inches off the ground. If the sheep go to another pasture, the charger goes with it. I plug it in over there. But I don't have 10 or 15 miles of electric fence going all the time, and there's a wire on the back side of the property that is grounded because there's some limb across it, and then everything is out. Switches are available for that. I don't want to do that. I have just found this simple. Hope this video helps you all out. I'm just trying to help people that have been asking me questions about what I use and why I use it. Both methods are good. But for me, and being able to be able to put that charger anywhere I want it at any time, it's a done deal. I wouldn't change it for the world. Have a great day. Hope you're having a great holiday season. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Tell your friends about us. And if you haven't subscribed, I don't know why you haven't. You need to. Have a great week.